Namaste. Today is, I think, day 22 of my Hindi studies, and it's an update is long overdue. I think it's been nearly 2 weeks since my last update. But I've been keeping busy every day with studying something every single day. I have another video about a kill streak. Kill streak is just your consecutive days. So my kill streak is every single day, 22 days. And every day I just make sure I spend some time with Hindi. Typically it's an hour, sometimes more. But I don't study at the same time every day. It's not very regimented. I don't have a very strict plan of what I'm doing. I study sometimes in my Hindi book. Sometimes I listen to audio programs. Sometimes I watch movies. And lately I've been watching Hindi vlogs. I realized that if I want to get a lot of these speech patterns, normal, natural speech patterns in my head, I should listen to normal, natural people speaking Hindi. And so I found this before with other languages too, that watching foreigners speaking the language is actually a great sort of midpoint. In other words, native speakers' conversation is so advanced that you can only pull out a few words here and there, and you can't understand what they're talking about. But speakers, other learners of that language, give you two different advantages. One, they speak much more slowly with a much more limited vocabulary. Number two, they're typically talking about learning that language, right? So you know what they're talking about. You know roughly what they're going to say. So the context, you have a lot more context for their conversation, as opposed to just watching a random conversation between native speakers. It's really hard to understand what they're talking about. The drawback, of course, is that non-native speakers do make a lot more mistakes, and their pronunciation is never as good as native speakers. Still, it's a good, like I said, stepping stone. So once you can understand a lot of what non-native speakers are saying, then you want to focus beyond that and hear what native speakers say. So let me show you a couple of videos that I found that kind of illustrate this point. So if you type in speaking and then the language you're studying, you're going to come up with a bunch of videos typically of foreigners learning the language, and it's sensational titles like white girl speaking Swahili, or English dude speaks perfect Japanese, whatever. So this is an American student who speaks pretty good Hindi, and I can understand a lot of what he's saying. His language is very recursive, that is, he repeats himself a lot, and his vocabulary is relatively limited compared to a native speaker. But more importantly, I know what he's talking about. I know what the questions are about, and I know what his answers are about. He's not explaining how to cook butter chicken. He's not explaining how to fix a sink. He's talking about what life is like in India. So here I can understand this question and the following answer. So the question is, Hindi movie dekhe kuch, which has an English word in it. That's very common. I think it says maybe a week ago I saw a Hindi movie.
Single.
Yeah. So yeah, he's just talking about the movie that he saw. Also, Hindi vlogs, and there's not a lot of these, but you can type in, the language you're studying and vlog, and there's just a person talking about a thing, on and on and on in that language. The ones that I found for Hindi so far have been women talking about makeup mostly, but occasionally they'll kind of take a break from talking about makeup and all the makeup they bought and all the makeup they applied, and talk about their lives. So this one's in the first minute, I understand a lot of what she's talking about. She's talking about why she's doing this. She's taking a break and doing a Hindi vlog to answer some questions that many of her viewers have submitted.
वीडियो और इस बार हम हिंदी में बात करेंगे क्योंकि आप लोगों ने बहुत ज़्यादा रिक्वेस्ट की है मुझे हिंदी में बातें करने के लिए आप लोगों के साथ, और मैं कोशिश करूंगी कि मैं जितना हो सके आपसे हिंदी में बात करूंगी। बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है मुझे ऐसे आपसे बात करके हिंदी में। मैं कल ही इंडिया से आई हूँ और इस बार
So I definitely don't understand every word, but I'm paying attention more to the patterns. What kinds of things? Oh,
मैं
I'll let her open her eyes. What kinds of things does she repeat? How does she start her sentences? How does she end her sentences? When she says bahut, what kind of word follows that? When she says something like koshish ki, what kind of thing follows that? So I'm just listening to these repeated patterns because that's how she constructs her. She inserts the meaning between those little linking bits. So that's the kind of thing that I need to pick up is what are natural ways to construct your sentences. Main sochti hoon ki, I think that, or just that sort of pattern that's been really useful in other languages I've studied. How am I going to do this in Hindi? So at times it seems daunting. It seems like, what's the point? Why am I going through all this effort to learn hundreds and thousands of words in a different language when I really have no intention of going there, no intention of having to work with the language. But I guess it's because you get to hear people whose voices you wouldn't otherwise hear. You know that your words translated into other languages are not quite the same as you speaking your own language to those people directly. And so for me to be able to hear their words directly, even though it's not perfect understanding, it's a different kind of understanding. I guess that's one thing I focus on in order to keep me motivated and to keep working at it. It's likewise the big difference between a movie that's been dubbed and a movie that has the original voices with subtitles. The subtitles and subtitles win over dubbing because you get to hear that actor's real voice and not an imitation of that voice in translation. So, anyway, it's just another thing that keeps me motivated every day to keep working. All right, I'll check in with you in another few days.